In July 2003, deep in the war-scarred city of Mosul, this quiet house hid two of the most feared and terrifying men in Iraq. Uday and Qusay, the sons of Saddam Hussein, had disappeared after the fall of Baghdad, but the search and pursuit of them never stopped. When the American forces found them, they did not surrender. In a brutal confrontation that lasted 6 hours, bullets and missiles tore the house apart completely. By sunset, inside the rubble, Saddam Hussein's lineage had perished. But how did the American forces reach two of the most wanted men in Iraq? In this short documentary, we present to you the final battle of Saddam Hussein's sons. Uday Hussein was born on June 18, 1964. He was Saddam's eldest son and was expected to assume power one day, but his violent behaviour made even Saddam anxious about his actions. In 1988, he beat a man to death at one of his parties. That man was Saddam's personal servant. After this incident, Saddam distanced himself from Uday. Nevertheless, Uday wielded a great deal of power. He controlled the Iraqi Olympic Committee and the media. He lived in luxury and terrorized those around him. He was accused of raping women, torturing athletes, and killing anyone who angered him. As for Kusay, he was born in 1966. He did not seek attention like his brother, but he had greater, real power. He managed the Iraqi intelligence agencies, the secret police, and military operations. He was in charge of the elite Republican Guard and the Special Security Organization. During the uprisings in 1991 after the Gulf War, Kusay led the repressive campaign. Thousands of Iraqis were killed during those operations. By the time of the American invasion in 2003, Qusay was considered Saddam Hussein's potential successor in Iraq. By April 2003, a few weeks after the fall of Baghdad, the United States was desperate to capture the people who had helped Saddam during his rule. To make it easier for the forces to identify them, the army came up with a strange idea: a deck of playing cards. Each card bore the face of a specific person from Saddam's inner circle. The higher the rank, the more important the card. Saddam himself was the card that carried his picture. This card carried the picture of Uday, the eldest son. Qusay, the quieter and more dangerous, had this card assigned to him, and the US government had placed a huge bounty on the heads of the sons. $15 million for Uday, and another $15 million for Qusay's head, totaling $30 million US, making it one of the largest cash rewards ever offered for any person in history. But despite the huge reward and the thousands of American soldiers on the ground, there was no trace of the brothers anywhere. American soldiers raided houses, searched mosques, and conducted sweeps into Krit, Baghdad, and other cities where Saddam's loyalists might be hiding. In fact, Uday and Qusay headed north to Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq. It was a smart choice. Mosul had been a Ba'ath Party stronghold for years. The city was full of Saddam loyalists who hated the American invasion and were willing to help hide members of Saddam's family. At first, Uday and Qusay stayed in different safe houses, moving from place to place to avoid being tracked. Only a few trusted people knew their whereabouts. Eventually, the brothers settled in the home of a man named Nawaf al-Zaidan. He was a businessman with ties to Saddam's inner circle and was not a stranger to the family. Nawaf's house was located in the Al-Falah neighbourhood, a middle-class area of Mosul. The villa was large, 3 stories, with thick exterior walls and heavy metal doors. It blended in with the other houses in the area. There was nothing suspicious from the outside, but inside, it had become a refuge for some of the most wanted fugitives in Iraq. By mid-July, the pressure was mounting. American forces were still hunting Saddam and his sons, and the reward money had become harder to ignore. Nawaf al-Zaidan began to think twice. Perhaps he feared being arrested, or perhaps the money was too tempting. Whatever the reason, Nawaf made a decision that would change everything. On July 21st, he contacted the American forces through an intermediary. He told them that Uday and Qusay Hussein were hiding in his villa in Mosul. He gave the exact location, described the house, and confirmed that they were still inside. He also made it clear that he wanted protection for himself and his family, and the full reward. The Americans were skeptical at first. They had received dozens of false reports in the past, most of which led to nothing. But this time was different. The source seemed confident. The details matched, and Nawaf was known for his connections to the regime, which made the claim more credible. a small American team was hastily sent to Mosul to verify the claim. They checked the neighbourhood, observed the house from a distance, and gathered intelligence. By the end of the day, they were almost certain the sons were inside. Once confirmation arrived, the American command did not waste a second. They began preparing for a full-scale military operation. This was not a quiet arrest. The Americans had to assume the brothers were heavily armed and ready to die fighting. The plan was to move quickly, surround the house, and demand surrender. If the brothers surrendered, they would be taken alive. If they did not surrender, the forces were fully prepared to demolish the entire house. On the morning of July 22, 2003, the quiet streets of the Al-Falah neighbourhood were about to turn into a battlefield. Around 10 a.m, American forces moved into positions around the house. The mission had been carefully planned, involving some of the US Army's elite units, most notably Delta Force of Task Force 20, a special operations group created to hunt senior members of Saddam's regime. They were supported by soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division, known for their speed and precision. Outside the house, the Americans had armoured Humvees and Bradley fighting vehicles. In the sky, helicopters hovered, ready to provide immediate support. Snipers took positions on the rooftops of nearby houses. The entire area was sealed off. No one could enter or leave the neighbourhood. Soldiers used loudspeakers, calling out in Arabic, ordering those inside to come out with their hands raised. They promised safe treatment if they surrendered. This was their last chance to live, but there was no sign of surrender. Within seconds, gunfire erupted from inside the villa, shattering windows and walls. The Americans immediately returned fire, took cover and tried to assess the threat. It was clear Uday and Qusay had no intention of surrendering. Inside the villa, the brothers had prepared a strong defensive setup. They were on the upper floors, using the height advantage, armed with assault rifles, hand grenades and plenty of ammunition. Mustafa, Qusay's young son, was also with them, and reports later indicated that the boy was armed as well. The Americans now realised this would not be a quick arrest. It had turned into a full-scale firefight. They used everything at their disposal, returning fire with M249 machine guns, grenade launchers and a T4 rockets. Smoke filled the air as shattered glass and chunks of concrete rained down. They tried to storm the building with small assault teams, hoping to enter and end the fight quickly. But the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Every time a team approached the front or side of the building, they were met with a wall of gunfire. After nearly an hour of intense fighting, it became clear to the American commanders more firepower was needed. The brothers were not surrendering. Task Force 20 requested immediate air support and heavier weapons. Soon, the sounds of helicopters thundered above the house. Apache attack helicopters from the 101st Airborne Division arrived, circling, then hovering low around the building. Then one of the Apaches locked onto its target, the second floor, and fired a Hellfire missile. Moments later, another missile struck the upper floor, lighting up the sky in a massive explosion. Part of the second floor collapsed, yet even after that explosion, Uday and Qusay kept firing, refusing to surrender. It was clear they were moving throughout the house, going from room to room, using furniture for cover and making use of every weapon they had left. They were skilled fighters, and they knew how to hold a defensive position. Another Hellfire missile was fired. This time, it hit the roof. The impact was devastating, but once again, the house did not go quiet. As the battle raged on, the dangers to the American soldiers grew. Many were injured, some by gunfire, others by shrapnel from grenades and flying chunks of concrete. The wounded were evacuated and reinforcements were called in. Commanders knew this had to end soon, but it had to be done the right way. Uday and Qusay fought on for more than 6 hours, making it one of the longest single firefights US forces had faced since the invasion began in March 2003. Around 4 p.m, the shooting finally stopped. An hour later, the troops moved in. The house was barely standing. Soldiers advanced cautiously, scanning for traps or any signs of survivors. They had to make sure the threat was truly over. Inside the rubble, they found 4 bodies, buried in the debris of the second and third floors. 2 adult men, a teenage boy, and another man who appeared to be a personal bodyguard. All of them killed in the battle. The soldiers quickly photographed the bodies and sent the images to intelligence officers. This was a high-value target operation. identification had to be certain. Military intelligence teams worked fast, using dental records, scars, medical files, and X-rays to confirm. After careful comparison, the results came back official. 2 of the men were Uday and Qusay Hussein, the teenage boy, Mustafa, Kusay's son, and the 4th, their bodyguard. The American forces transported the bodies to Baghdad. They wanted to prevent the graves from becoming shrines or gathering points for loyalists, so the burial was kept secret. Later that week, the remains were moved to Tikrit, the site of the Hussein family cemetery. They were buried under tight security with no ceremonies, and the graves remained hidden and unmarked. While Saddam Hussein's sons were being buried, Nawaf al-Zaidan's life changed forever. A few days after the raid, he quietly received the full $30 million, payment in full. It made him one of the highest paid informants in modern history. After the deaths of Uday and Qusay, Iraq continued to burn. A powerful insurgency rose, and American forces were regularly attacked. But for many Iraqis, the fall of Saddam's sons meant the end of an era of horror.